Live. And we're live in living
And
color.
That's so exciting. Hey world, I know there's thousands of you filtering, probably not. There's probably like 2 folks. But if you're joined, like, hello.
Hello, everyone. Yes, welcome to Day 2 DevOps Friday Hang. What did I call this? The Friday deployment of Doom?
Of Doom.
Doom.
Where we are very much less structured than our normal podcast, and we're just going to talk about stuff. Because this is basically behind the curtain of how Ned and I just normally are before we go live and before we interview people, where we just talk at each other all the time.
Yeah, before we turn on all the well, I have my fancy lights on, so I can't say that. But before we turn on our charm, put on our game face.
I've got my charm turned all the way up, but you speak for yourself. That's totally true. Maybe for you.
I mean, I don't think you have to turn it up. That's the thing. That's just
true.
Natural.
That's true. It is.
Some of us have to try. Yeah, so we were just going to hang out, chat about some of the previous Day 2 DevOps episodes. And like, if anybody who's tuned in has a question for either of us, or a comment about a recent episode, or just something that's on your mind, yeah, man, bring it up. Bring it on.
Heck yeah. Are we all going to lose our jobs to AI in 2 years? I don't know.
Heck yeah.
Let's make the best of it while we can.
Good Lord. So I just got off of a another live stream with Marino, the weekly one we've been doing, the live on Main. And we had Whitney Lee from Datadog on talking about the way that she uses AI to code things. She's been working on an MCP server, and she's been using AI and MCP servers to develop her own custom MCP server.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I mean, it's definitely worth watching if anybody's interested. But the thing that really struck me about it is the way that she interacts with the agent. It's not this like vibe coding thing where she just tells it to, here's an idea, go do it. And then, no, that doesn't look quite right, so try it again this way. It's much more structured than that.
Yeah.
So she has it like, here's an idea I have. What questions do you have for me? And she has it ask her questions.
Oh, I love that. Interview me.
Yes. What do you need to know to build out a solution? Kind of like, kind of like you might do if somebody came to you and said, I want you to write this application. What do you need to know? Yeah.
It's striking how much this is like leadership skills and management skills and just communication, you know, like in an English literature or journalism sense. It's not like programming.
Yeah, but it is programming, because at some point it does still produce code.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have to be responsible for that code that gets produced.
I have seen some Claude markdown files, like Claude.md reads those files and iterates agentically on your code and to satisfy them. And a lot of them have started to be really focused on test-driven development, because then the bot can test itself. And telling it, don't just like spit out code, which is my experience with agentic coding. It spits out like 1,000 lines of code and it says, oh, I'm done now. But it's every time you make a line change, run your test and see if it works. And if it doesn't, don't proceed, fix that line first. And it's much slower, but your code will work when it's done, when the bot is done programming. And I think we're gonna all get pushed towards test-driven development. We're just gonna have to, because bots just spit out 1,000 lines of code. I can't possibly PR review that. Can't looks good to me like I do at my day job.
It's so funny that you bring up test-driven development, because what Whitney was showing us is that's literally what she does when she breaks out what Claude gives her into tasks and then subtasks, and then in those subtasks, before she has it write any code, she outlines the tests that it needs to run.
Oh,
and has it write the tests, and then has it run the tests to ensure that they fail.
To ensure that they fail. Okay, I like that. That's true.
So none of these tests should pass because the code doesn't exist yet. And then run it, and then write the code, and now run the tests again, and now they should pass if the code's right. So I was like, whoa, that's
really good.
And it really forces you to think about what your expected inputs and outputs are, and the tests that should exist for that subtask. Like, this is This is project manager stuff.
Yes, it is. It's really making you step back. I mean, I guess that's it. That's the operational impact of these AI bots operating agentically. It's like you have an employee, and so now you're managing it. And for better or worse, we're all kind of managers of our own little bot group that we're pulling the strings on. I don't know if I like it. I want to go back, but I don't think we can put AI back in the bottle, you know?
Isn't that's the thing? Like, the genie is very much out of the bottle at this point. Oh, I guess it's like any other technology. I won't say it's like any other technology. Maybe that's an overstatement, right? But it's another revolutionary technology that has rolled up. And the number of revolutionary technologies that have happened in our lifetime is frankly bananas.
Yes, it is.
I was thinking about that this morning. Because I was trying to think about what life was like for people 200 years ago, 300 years ago. And you expected nothing really new to happen in your lifetime.
Yeah. I bet their internet was really slow 200 years ago.
I was just thinking, like, maybe go back to like pre-industrial revolution when it was just like a lot of agriculture. Like, you're born on the farm, you worked on the farm, you
with
died
your
on the farm.
13 siblings. Yep.
And there was no one like coming along every 2 years with a brand new farm widget to enhance your farming activities. It was like, no, we plow and we seed and we reap exactly like our forefathers did, and the ones before them and the ones before them, going back for several hundred years. And like, then I think about someone who was like a centenarian, like someone who's 100 years old. When they were born, the internet didn't exist, radio was brand new, like cars weren't really a thing.
Yeah.
And I just think about like each of these technological revolutions that has happened in their lifetime and how it is accelerating and compressing. And like AI is just the latest iteration of that. Is it too overstated though? I guess maybe that's my worry, because we had Web3 and what a clusterfuck that was.
It became a nothing. It became an absolutely nothing. I don't know. I go back and forth that we're overstating it. And obviously computer engineering is going to continue to be like working, particularly network engineering is probably going to remain almost the same, maybe with some helper bots. And then I go to the other way, like later in the same day. And I'm like, oh no, we're all going to lose our jobs. We're going to have like 4 guys that run 20,000 bots. And there's not going to you don't need a team of engineers if you have a bunch of bots that can build program stuff. So I have no idea. It's, probably in between those two.
Yeah. Hi,
Layoffs.
Welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Thank you. Oh, this channel's a W. I love it.
We have one audience member. This is very exciting. Where's the champagne?
I got Prosecco upstairs. Does that count?
Oh, that does count. I wish we were in the same place. Ugh.
Oh God.
Stupid work from home.
Reinforce. It's coming up. We'll both be in the same building. It might explode from excitement. Who knows?
That's true. If anyone is going to be at Reinforce, let us know in Philadelphia in 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Goodness, really, really soon.
Yes.
Let us know because we'll be there. We could say hi. I'll be speaking. I'm very excited. It's a humble brag a little bit, but I am very excited.
I sent you an article, and let me put it up on screen so that anybody who's watching can see what I'm talking about. And I do that, and then I select the correct screen because I'm really good at this.
We don't normally share our screen. We're an audio pod. We have faces for audio.
Oh. Speak for yourself. Yeah, so this article apparently is making some waves on the old Hacker News, and it came across my LinkedIn feed. And it's from Thomas, I don't know how to say his last name. Tasek? Is it a silent P? I don't know. But yeah, he wrote this article, My AI Skeptic Friends Are All Nuts. And it's a very opinionated article. Did you have a second to read it?
No, I haven't had a chance to read it. Personal stuff.
So, like, if I could summarize a little bit, the main idea here is it's a defense of using AI for programming, not for anything else. So not necessarily for writing the next great novel, creating videos or artwork or anything like that. It's specifically just for programming. And he makes a few arguments in here. I think one of the big ones was like, if you went and tried to use LLMs to program a year ago, your experience was probably terrible. And you can't use that negative bias of what happened, of what it was like a year ago, to keep yourself from trying it out now.
That makes sense. Yeah, thinking models are dramatically better. We have agentic integrations into VS Code, into your IDE. That's way better than it was a year ago. I don't even know if that existed a year ago.
It sure didn't. Oh,
Hey,
hello,
technical
Technoartist.
artist.
Welcome. Thanks for joining the live stream.
Two fans.
Two
The row.
fans. Boom. You're winning. That's 2 bottles of Prosecco. Yeah, the other thing he's basically saying is, like, you're still responsible for whatever code gets generated by the LLM. So you might not be writing every single line of it, but you still have to read it. And if you don't understand it, you can ask questions. And it should be that more like conversational tone. And that helps to limit the hallucination factor, because you're not just accepting everything it does blindly. You're looking through the code and actually picking it apart and going, okay, that part makes sense, that part doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. I think it should be rewritten until it makes sense to you. I don't like seeing different standards and different, libraries that I've never heard of, because it'll do that. The same as a junior engineer. I saw one of the sections was labeled that.
Yeah, and there was also a section where he just kind of talked about, what about the craft of software engineering? And he's like, yeah, it's nice to have a craft. I have hobbies. Like me personally, I make bread. We know this. Ned makes bread, in part because it rhymes. But that's like, if I needed to feed 1,000 people, I wouldn't try to bake all of those loaves, artisanally in my kitchen. I would go contract with a factory that can make 1,000 loaves of bread. Like,
yeah,
I still enjoy that hobby, but I don't ever think of that hobby as something that's going to feed hundreds or thousands of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just different. And enterprises too, in particular. Like, I have built a lot of small projects, and that's, big companies build a couple projects and I build twice as many projects. And it's because the requirements are dramatically different. I don't care if it's insecure. I care that it does a cool thing and it works. And I don't care if it's supportable 10 years from now. I'll have moved on. I'll build something new. So yeah, the requirements for enterprise stuff is just dramatically different. Of course it is. Like being a mechanic versus fiddling with your car. Of course it's different.
Of course it's different. Well, we don't have to talk about AI this whole time.
That's all I think about though, Ned. It's all I think about all day and all night.
We've had some interesting shows recently though. And I just want to pull up the ones that have published in the last 3 episodes or so. Our most recent one was with Firefly, talking about state of infrastructure as code, and maybe that's a good springboard, because we did talk about AI a bit in that episode, but we also talked about other infrastructure as code things. And I think we even had some conversations after the episode was over. Was there like anything that jumped out to you?
Well, I think it was a lot of things that I personally feel are true, that they have managed to prove, that they did research to prove the things are true and actually correct, which is wonderful to have confirmed. But primarily that you don't have to use Terraform. Terraform's obviously winning. Tofu's winning the war of infrastructure as code, but you should be using it, obviously. And this is the same thing, like when you're building something yourself, click the buttons and learn what all the buttons do. But if you're building it 1,000 times, obviously use something to standardize it. It feels faster when you build 5, but it is clearly faster when you build 100 to use infrastructure as code.
Yeah. When I first got the Azure MVP award, so this is going back 7 or 8 years, however long it's been.
Humble brag
Um,
again, but this is well deserved, Ned. This is so cool. I'm at almost year 2 and you're at like 7 or 8. That's amazing.
um, I remember going into like some of the discussion threads that were happening at the time, and there was this one guy who was just adamant about the fact that he could do everything faster through like ClickOps.
Once.
And no, he would say like, no, I can change 1,000 accounts faster and more trustworthy than if I power and like PowerShell scripting was still kind of like the preferred way to do a lot of things. And he was like, no, you can't trust PowerShell. You can't trust ARM templates. You can only trust yourself.
Thank goodness there's no programming behind that console button. Or that would be really confusing for him.
Yeah. And so he just went on, and all these people were like poking holes in his arguments and like telling him, no, I mean, like automation is the future. If you have to do this at scale, you're going to have to learn it. And he was just steadfastly against any kind of automation, really. He was just like a dyed-in-the-wool traditional Windows admin where everything was next, finish.
Yep.
I always wonder what happened to him. Like, I didn't keep track of him after that because I kind of wrote him off. I was like, not the future. But I'm really curious, like, what happened to him? Did he end up, like, just quitting tech and, I don't know, woodworking for the rest of his life?
I've known so many people that are like, this computer stuff is dumb and I'm done with it and I'm going to go raise goats. I literally know a goat farmer now that's like, I'm not going to touch a computer forever, ever again.
Huh. I can't imagine walking away from computers entirely.
I don't think so either. I would love to walk away from the grind of software engineering and learning. I love learning, but also I'm forced to do it. And that makes me not love it nearly as much. But I do love the speed of it and the highs. It's kind of like drugs a little bit, where like when you solve a problem, you're like, I'm the smartest person that's ever walked this earth. And then you start the next problem and you're like, oh, I've been fooling everyone for a really long time. Why did they pay me to do this?
Lavash said what he said.
Have
mass layoffs still been happening in the IT world? I heard they started because the market was a tad saturated plus AI. I mean, for sure, layoffs are still happening.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I know several people who were impacted by the latest round of Microsoft layoffs. They laid off something like 7 or 8% of their workforce. Which, when you're Microsoft, that's a lot of people. And what was interesting is some of the teams that were getting laid off were, in fact, like AI teams working on different AI technologies. I don't know if that was like a culling of the herd. They're like, okay, clearly these approaches are now working, and we took a spray and pray approach to AI, and now we're being a little more disciplined and strategic about it. Or if some of their AI bets just aren't paying off, and so they're cutting their losses on it. I don't know what the answer is.
No, I don't know that either. I've heard the same thing, that Microsoft's layoffs were primarily around AI teams, which is weird. That's the opposite of what we're told, that like, learn AI, you'll never be laid off. Or, it'll happen later when the robots take over. But yeah, that certainly was not reflected with Microsoft's layoffs last week, the week before, the recent ones.
I think there's been 2 rounds. So
okay.
There was an initial round, and then I think there was a second round. And they're certainly not the only big tech employer that's had layoffs this year. I think Cisco had a decent number of layoffs, though they kind of do that every year. They do a RIF every year. I would be curious to look at labor statistics at the beginning and the ending of 2025 to see what it looks like for the tech industry as a whole, because, Microsoft laying off however many percentage of their workforce grabs a lot of headlines, but is that like indicative of a larger trend, or is that just something Microsoft is doing?
It seems, and this is very much a gut feeling, it seems like that's just the normal operating procedure for big companies, for enterprises, especially publicly traded ones. You can make the stock bounce up a little bit if you lay off 10,000 people. I think at the beginning of The Fifth Element, where they're like, we need to lay off 500,000. And he's like, just lay off 1,000,000, just do it. And it's like, oh, these lives seem just numbers on a spreadsheet. And I wish big companies would try and be more, to have stable growth and less like, send them packing, because there's a human cost to it. And it's hard to see. I clearly am not cut out to be an executive. Because I couldn't do it. I couldn't personally.
You're not nearly ruthless enough. I think
I am not. I would want to train all the AI folks on the things that are working and not fire them and hire new people.
Yeah, we're definitely in this phase where we're back on AI.
Sorry. No, it is literally all I think about.
We're definitely in this phase where it's iterating so rapidly.
Yeah.
And people are making a lot of different bets, and we don't know which ones are going to pay out. And so I think the smart bet is to stay involved, to learn what tools are out there, get some experience with them, get comfortable with the concepts and the ideas, and then kind of wait and see. And I feel like that's what you've done, Tyler. Like you've been using AI at work to help you develop stuff, right?
Yeah, I really like the strategy that I've taken. I think it's worked well. I found out that there's an AWS service called Bedrock that like hosts AI and it's private. I work in the healthcare industry for my day job. And I was like, maybe I can build a chatbot. Like there's a Slack app, and when you tag it, it relays a webhook somewhere. So I built a little bridge. It's a little Lambda, and it relays the Slack webhook question that you ask over to Bedrock, gets a response, and relays it back. And really, like, that is an incredibly simple IO kind of thing. But it acted as a ramp. I got to start learning about Bedrock and about AI and how system prompts work. And it's been a really good experience so far. And it's been a springboard for work. I am far ahead of most of my peers, at least within this little company. But I feel like outside of it too, I'm not an expert. I'm not a PhD in how machine learning works, but I know enough to use AI. And I think that's kind of the baseline. You need to learn to use the tools. And so to just go mess with them, go play with them. Can I share a link? I don't know if I can.
Yeah, you can.
I'll,
if you can't, just throw it in private chat and I'll share it.
Okay, cool. Most of this, this whole code base is public if you want to build it in Slack or Teams. Like if you want to go literally copy and paste my code and play with it, you absolutely can.
Well, I will put that in. There we go. That's the link you were talking about.
Go do it. Go mess with it. It's all Python. If you've used any Python, it'll be familiar. But really, it's such a silly project. And I mean that in kind of a complimentary way. Like you should start with something that's really basic. It's a little fetch script that talks to Bedrock a little.
And you got the Terraform side that sets up the Lambda stuff.
Yeah, as much as I could. All the knowledge-based stuff is not well supported with Terraform. That changes all the time. Mm-hmm. But the other stuff, the IAM roles, the Lambda, the layers, if you've never used Lambda, this is probably a good read also. I just don't want to maintain code. And then there's a lot of stuff written there. Almost that entire series is free now. I think it's free except for the very last ones, and they'll come up free soon.
Nice.
But just go do it, go play with it. You can build simple, tell me a joke about a puppy, and then go fetch it from Bedrock or Azure AI, which is where I was going to build this initially, and just see what you can do. I mean, you're not going to compete with GitHub with Copilot. Probably they have 20,000 people working on this, but you can build cool widgets that can work for you, and it's probably useful for your career.
Yeah, that is solid advice. And I guess that's kind of the thing we always keep coming back to is technology is lifetime learning. There's no, if you're going to have a career in tech, you have to be prepared to keep learning the whole time. And if you don't enjoy that, this is probably the wrong industry.
Yeah, it'll seem incredibly hard to just keep going to school forever. But of course, you have to. You have to keep learning.
It's kind of my dream to go to school forever.
Lindsay too, my partner as well, would prefer to just be in college for the rest of her life. She'd be thrilled.
Well,
Have you ever
somehow we
seen The Librarian? It's a TV show from like 20 years ago, and it's this guy with like 15 PhDs, and he goes on an adventure and he knows everything, and it's
Mhm.
fantastic fun. It's really campy. It's totally worth the watch.
Is that Noah Wiley?
I mean, that sounds right to me, but it has been a long time.
I did. It was like a few movies, wasn't it? Like direct to
Yeah.
TV movies.
It is Noah Wiley. Yep.
Look at me.
It's incredible. That was very good. You should be on trivia teams.
And the other one, the other actress, at least in the first one, was the woman from Castle.
Yeah.
Something Staic.
Yeah, I don't see her on the list here, but yes, absolutely.
She was like a vampire in one of the librarians.
Totally worth the watch.
Yeah, it is so campy. It's kind of like what I wanted the new Indiana Jones movies to be.
Yeah.
And instead they were like, yes, but what if we take really old Harrison Ford and put him next to a nuclear blast? You want to see that, right?
Yeah. And there's
No.
Nazis still for some reason. I haven't actually seen the new one. I'm just assuming.
I haven't seen the new one. The Crystal Skull, I was like, that's it. I'm done.
They lost a lot of people on the Crystal Skull.
I mean, it didn't help that Shia LaBeouf was so unbelievably irritating, but
Yeah, he's gone a little out to sea. We do have some comments here about Cisco and AI. I want to be very kind to Cisco because they're an occasional partner of ours, but I don't see them being terribly competitive in cloud or in AI, and those are huge growth markets. They're pretty good in security. I do see that.
Yeah, so Cisco can't keep up with the current advancements in technology. With AI and agentic AI, they have completely lost ground. Others are filling the gap. Cisco will feel the heat. I mean, I think it's good if Cisco feels the heat. NVIDIA is introducing 400 gigabit to terabit networking, an area where Cisco is lacking. Additionally, Cisco Meraki is losing traction. I mean, I can't speak to their market share, but I know that, competition in my estimation is good. Cisco has been the 800-pound gorilla for like ever. And it's nice to see other companies chip away at some of their market share in different areas, because that competition forces Cisco to do better.
And
like,
they're able to, like they have the sales force and the connections and the engineering talent to deliver. So yeah, put the heat on because they can build amazing stuff. They just need the impetus to do so.
Well, I mean, on that angle, I know that one of my other StreamYard companions, Kat Morgan, she just joined Cisco.
Oh,
and
cool.
She is like, her job's a little top secret. She can't tell me everything, but it is very heavily focused on AI. So I think like there's a couple of different dimensions to how Cisco could be competing in the world of AI. One side is like the software that drives their networking and equipping that with AI enabled and agentic friendly things. And then there's the other half of their world, which is supplying the hardware to run the AI inference and training clusters. And yeah, I think, right now they can't compete really with what NVIDIA is pumping out and what InfiniBand's capable of doing. But I think that's a short-term thing. With the Ultra Ethernet? Ultra Ethernet, I forget what their designation is. Consortium, maybe? UEC? That sounds right. They're really pushing the boundaries on what Ethernet can do and have it catch up to what InfiniBand's doing today. And it's really up to Cisco to either design chips that are capable of doing that terabit level stuff or use Broadcom's. What is it? It's not Jericho. Maybe it's Jericho that does the terabit. I'd have to look it up. I don't know their chip names as well as I maybe should. I don't know. Rant over.
I think that they have a pretty wonderful market share in data centers. They'll continue to own that market for a really long time because of their support contracts primarily. Like there are other hardware players that can go as fast or are probably cheaper for the hardware. But when you need something replaced in 3 hours, you call Cisco and they will show up with the replacement part. And that is just, resiliency and redundancy you cannot buy from another company. That is a huge leader.
Yeah, and Arista's definitely made some headwinds into private data centers, but their biggest customer is still the cloud giants.
Mhm.
That's the largest portion of where their revenue comes from. But they've made some serious inroads in larger organizations too. So there's some competition there, and like I said, that's good. I want to see that. I
Mhm.
want to see more than just one network company in any given domain. So it forces that level of competition.
Yeah.
I'm really, really curious to see what happens with inference clusters, especially because training clusters are one thing, but inference needs to get faster and closer to the edge. And that's the thing that if we're looking at the future of hardware and the future of AI, it's all about making the models smaller, more efficient, and developing better hardware that can run on your phone or on your laptop or wherever you are going to be, instead of calling out to the cloud every time you need to do an LLM query of some kind.
Mhm. Apple is doing their best with Siri running on local chips, and from what I understand, it just doesn't work well yet. Like they're preparing, and hopefully we'll get there in a year or two. But the current gen is just not nearly as bright as relying on public AI.
When Google just had their big developer conference, Google I/O, a few weeks ago, and one of the things they were stressing is the new Gemini models. They're coming out with Gemini models that are shrunk down and capable of running on like Pixel phones, essentially. So being able to run those models locally, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like the idea of it all just running locally instead of having to send out every time. Just seems like it'd be more efficient. Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens. And I'm also really curious about what happens with more targeted models for specific use cases. I think we talked about that on a recent Day 2 DevOps that hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, we did.
Little spoiler there.
Yeah, fine-tuning models is an art I don't understand yet. I hope to learn more about it. But if we can take these giant foundational models, they require data centers to run, and they eat a bottle of water every second they're alive or something. I don't know, something like that. But if you can fine-tune it for particular types of data, you can use a lot fewer chips to run the thing and a lot less energy. So maybe we'll have a model that can just do Terraform and a model that can just help you with your network engineering, and you could run it on your phone or your computer. And when you don't have internet in a data center sitting against a Nexus router, you can use that while you fix the internet. So that'll be cool. We'll start to see those things pop out.
Yeah. Oh, I thought of something and it just slipped away. Gone. Well, it's 3:00. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we have a lot of wonderful shows coming up. I hope y'all are enjoying it. And if you have ideas, please send them to us. We're available on LinkedIn. We do read everything that is submitted to us and try and consider it when choosing who to go talk to, which is basically just a list of our heroes, and what to talk about.
Yeah, and just to give you a little preview of a few things we've got coming up, Michael Levan is going to be on the show very shortly. What did we talk to him? We talked to him about the state of WebAssembly. So he's going to be on the show that's next week. And then we have a really good conversation with Dan Barr talking about ToolHive, which is a way to... that was specifically around like MCP servers, right?
Yeah. I mean, the market is just wild. There's no like registry yet. So yeah, that tool is about how do you find good tools? How do you trust them? How do you use them, especially at enterprise scale? How do you make sure all of your users are using ones you trust? Right now, you just kind of can't, except for maybe using that cool tool.
Yeah. And hello from Germany, Stefan. Thanks for joining.
Stefan.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this live stream. Kyler, any final thoughts to share with the audience?
Nothing. Let us know if this is something you enjoyed. This is an experiment. And if y'all liked it, we will keep these up. I certainly had fun.
Yeah, I had fun just chatting. So I'm happy to do this again in July.
Yeah, it helps to be friends. This is easy.
Yeah. Hell yeah. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend and keep being awesome out there.
Heck yeah.
All right.